Today I'm going to be sharing with you more visions concerning what's going on in the country right now. A lot of people have called us and asked, what's going on, and we are reminding them that they need to go back to our prophecies that we have given here about the 2016 election and the warning that God gave that if this nation did not choose right, the judgment was going to fall, and there was going to be more shootings and more bombings and all those things. And we spoke those on a prophecy. Again, listen, we're just messengers. A prophet is a messenger. He has to speak what God is saying, whether people like it or not. I think in this culture, we have a wrong picture of who a prophet is. We think the prophets are those people in churches that come to you and tell you that God's going to give you a house and God's going to give you a car. Listen, those are not prophets, okay? Those people, I don't know which name to call them. Maybe we should call them prophets. Not prophets, but not prophets. Everybody who thinks that if they can give a prophecy, then they wake up the next day and they can put a big name next to their name and call themselves prophets, all right? We have a wrong picture of who prophets are, all right? You are not a prophet because you're prophesying, okay? And you're not a prophet because you have the gift of prophecy. You're not a prophet because you're edifying everybody around and giving encouragement and word of knowledge and all this stuff. That doesn't make you a prophet. Okay, there's a price to pay, and it's a very, very painful price. All right, there's trials and persecutions and wilderness experiences and death processes that God takes a prophet that he may become a spiritual man. All right, yielded to the Holy Spirit and speaking from God unto the people without fear. And because we have a wrong picture of a prophet, we are listening to liars. Okay, we are listening to people who are on TV. We are listening to all these people who are only interested in becoming more richer. All right, they don't want to pay a price to hear God's voice. They don't want to lay their life down so God can use them. The only thing they're doing is wanting fame and power. Okay, their message is centered on emptiness and void notions. Okay, manipulation and greed. I don't even call them prophets. I call them diviners. All right, now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm saying you could see right now in the church. You could see and you could know the people who are representing God and people who are representing their own stomachs and self. The church is as dead as it is. All right. There's a remnant church, though, that God's raising in this nation to cry out for people to return to holiness. There's a remnant people in this nation that understand the need and the desire for God to restore this nation back to Him, the hearts of people back to Him in consecration, in purity, in righteousness. I don't want to get so much into this, but if you go back to our prophecies, you do remember that we gave the prophecies, okay? That, if this nation voted the wrong way and selected the wrong people, God's hand is off and the judgment will going to begin to fall. And I remember saying on that video that there's going to be more bombing, more shooting, and it's been continuing, all right? Jacob's trouble is persisting and continuing in this nation. Now, we went to Cleveland for a revival there, and in that Cleveland revival, we have repeated several times that God gave a word for the nation, and if the nation does not heed that word, then the judgment's going to begin to fall. And what we are seeing right now is that judgment falling upon this nation. Don't let anybody deceive you, okay? That these are racial tensions, okay? God's using these things right now to expose the heart of this nation, to expose the wickedness in this nation. I've said it several times, okay? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. And even if you take guns from people, people are going to find an alternative weapon to kill, all right? A murderer is going to kill, is going to find a way to satisfy, okay, that desire deep within them, okay? A murderer will continue to find ways to murder because that's how that spirit expresses its lust, by murdering. All right. So if it's not with a gun, it's going to be with a knife. And if it's not with a knife, it's going to be with a machete. And if it's not with a machete, it's going to be a baseball bat. And if it's not a baseball bat, it's going to be something else. Listen, when people decide to kill, it doesn't matter what they use, they're just gonna kill. And why? It's not because guns kill people, it's because the people who are holding those guns, their hearts, okay, their hearts need to change. But how can God change people's hearts when God has been kicked out of a culture? How can God touch people's hearts and change their hearts when we have kicked God out of the culture? We have kicked him out of schools. We have kicked him out of our homes. We are kicking him out of the government. We are kicking him out of everything. Then we expect him to intervene? No, he can't intervene. We have thrown him out. We have rejected him. We have forsaken God. We have forsaken the true living water. Okay? And do we expect God to protect us when we have, pointed our fingers on our face and we have told him that, oh, we are tolerant people. We are tolerant, compromising people, and we don't need God in this culture anymore. So you're facing the lawlessness that persists, okay, when the church is dead, okay, when the church is no longer the light that Christ called it to be. When the church has lost so much power, lost so much influence that nobody wants to pay attention to what the church says. The church is outnumbered in this nation. I could go on and on and on and on, all right? But I want to share with you the second few visions that the Lord has shown me. Yesterday night, I think, this was on Saturday night, all right? On Saturday night, the Lord wakes me up in the night, and I find myself in this dream. And in this dream, I'm standing in front of a court. It's a courthouse, and there was a magistrate, okay, sitting up on the bench, and there was this young man who was in front of the court. And the reason why it was there in front of the court was because he was smoking weed in front of his kid, and the judge and the lawyer, they were very frustrated, infuriated, basically telling him that he cannot do those things, that he's abusing a child. And he was trying to say that he loves his child and that he has a problem with addiction, and so he happens to smoke around his kid. And the court system in this dream was very severe on him. They basically told him that they were going to take a child from him, and that they were going to really show him how the government works. And they basically took the child from him. And I watched this thing unfold in the courthouse. As they took the child from him, this young man got very violent. Okay, he got very violent. He took his child and ran out of the courthouse. And the policemen were pursuing him, and a lot of people were pursuing him out of the court and chasing him down the road. And he had, he was holding on to his child, and everybody was pursuing him. The police kind of held him down and cuffed him and pressed him on the ground like they always do. And he was screaming his head out. Of course, this young man that I'm talking about was black in this dream, and the police officer that was pinning him on the ground was a white police officer. And he was screaming, and he was really saying a lot of derogatory stuff to the officer, and yelling and screaming. And then the next thing I know is that he was screaming his head out, and he was saying that, the whole community is being victimized. The whole community is being victimized, and it's being he was saying that there's a lot of discrimination against the community, not just with police stops on the roads, and not just with ticketing and all this stuff, but with even the court system locking up young black people in jail, and for no reasons, taking their children from them and dividing families. And he was screaming these things, and then immediately I saw a crowd, okay, come from nowhere, and they came into the court system. All right, they walked into the court. This crowd came right the way he was being arrested, and there was so much riot because of the court cases too. So it did not just stop with the police shooting people or on a traffic stop, but this thing went ahead into the courthouse. All right, it went ahead into the courthouse, and the justice system, or the court system, were also experiencing rioting. I saw a group of people walk back into the court, and they were throwing things everywhere and shooting, and there was exchanges of fire across in the courthouse, and people were getting shot in the courthouse, and there was car tires being burnt out on the street, and there was just carnage and destruction. Okay, then the Lord spoke to me and he said that the rioting that we are seeing right now is not just going to stop right there, but it's going to go into the court system, and it's going to begin to affect the people who are locked up in jail. Because listen, people are frustrated, and they believe that they're being discriminated, and it's going to spread further, not just with traffic stops, but it's going to now go into the court. Okay, now as I'm talking to you today, just today on the news, okay, there was a situation that happened where there was some shooting in the courts. Okay, I don't know where it took place, but I watched the news again today. There was some shooting in the court. All right, that's a warning enough for us to pay attention. The God is completely warning of the nature of this event. Now, that was on Saturday that I had that vision. Okay, yesterday night, which was Sunday night into Monday, all right, in the dream again at night, the Lord shows me a bunch of young people with guns, all right, running and chasing the police, and the police chasing them back, and exchanges of fire. There was fires being shot everywhere. I mean, I saw these young people firing back, the police firing back, and there was running all over the place, and there was chases, and it was just crazy. It's like the whole nation was glued on the TV sets watching this thing unfold, and it was just horrible. Now, I don't mean to scare anybody. As I told you before, real prophets will tell you the truth. You may hate them, you may not like them, but we're called to warn. If you're a prophet out there, I'm gonna challenge all these people who call themselves a prophet. If you're a prophet out there, all right, and you're calling yourself a prophet here in America, please begin to pray for God to give you burdens for this nation. Begin to pray for God to show you what's coming for this nation. Okay, if you have nothing to say, don't even call yourself a prophet. You've left your position on the wall. Okay. Listen, many prophets have left their position on the wall, and they can't see anything. They're busy running around, holding meetings everywhere, and they have no time to seek the Lord to show them what's coming upon this nation. It's time for the real prophets to step up and go back on their watchtower and begin to watch and weep for the soul of this nation that is about to be destroyed and to be shaken.